Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Blessings. Thank you for the warm welcome to the Penang Buddhist Association in this auspicious year, 99 years of the Penang Buddhist Association. And in Buddhism we say 99 is a very lucky number. It's very nice to be here on the Buddhist holy day. We call it Dhamma Savana Day, Day for Dhamma, Day for Dhamma teaching, Dhamma discussion. Hence, here I am, Buddhist monk, to give you or share with you some reflections on the Dhamma. In Thailand, the Buddhist holy day is called One Prat. One means day, Prat means monk. So it's called Monk Day. My teacher Ajahn Kalyano used to make a joke, kind of jokingly complain. He'd say in 1 month there's 4 monk days out of the 30 days of the month, or 31 days. And the rest of the days are for you lay people. And he said, well, it's not really fair, should have more monk days. But he was just pointing to the fact that sometimes we make this division in our mind. There's the practice of the Dhamma we do when we come to the temple. We keep precepts, we make offerings, maybe we're on our best behavior. But then when we go home, we kind of leave it all behind in the temple and don't practice very much. And we have to learn how to even things up. So that our practice is the same whether we're in the temple or at home, whether we're on our own or with other people. The purpose of the Buddhist teachings are to help us change for the better or improve as human beings, to find happiness. One way the Buddha talked about happiness is the absence of suffering. Now in worldly terms we talk about worldly happiness, and usually we mean just that. We mean, no problems, no pain, no difficulty, no trouble, no bother, no worries. We all associate those kind of thoughts with happiness. And usually these days we think you'll achieve that if you earn a lot of money, maybe, know a lot of people, and get everything you want in life. Then you'll be happy and you won't have any worries and no troubles and no problems. But if we're honest, is there anyone in the world who can actually achieve that? At the very least, there'll be 3 things you have to encounter, even if you're the richest person in the world and you know the most people and you're the most popular person in Penang. You have all the power, all the things that any human being would want. You still have to face 3 things that will not be to your liking, I would suggest. 1, you get older every day. And no one is immune from that. No one can escape aging, old age. 2, you sometimes get sick or ill. You have pain, you have injury. The body is quite fragile, and even with all the happiness of the world and all the things of the world, you can't really avoid having some pain and illness and discomfort because it comes with aging. And sometimes even when you're young, you catch disease or you fall over and hurt yourself. And we have illness and pain in different ways. And the last one is we all have to face death. Nobody lives forever. So these are three kinds of suffering that we're all going to have to face sooner or later. And maybe I'll add one to that. Poor quality sound systems is another kind of thing you have to face. Giving a talk with feedback is not very easy. But facing aging, sickness and death is something that is universal for every man, woman, animal, person in this world. They will have to face old age, sickness and death, except for somebody who has attained Nibbana. And that's one way we define Nibbana, which is the Buddha also described as the highest happiness that human beings can achieve. Nibbana is called the deathless, that which is unborn and doesn't die. So one who attains Nibbana goes beyond aging, sickness and death, and probably won't have to wrestle with malfunctioning sound systems either. So this is the highest happiness, and this is not a happiness based on getting what you want in life, because the Buddha understood you don't always get what you want. The Buddha also had to face old age, sickness and death. The Buddha also had to face hunger, aches and pains, tiredness, the heat of the sun, the cold wind in the winter. Some people didn't like the Buddha or didn't agree with the Buddha. Maybe they'd argue with him or try and pick some kind of argument with him. Unfortunately, some people even tried to hurt the Buddha out of jealousy and rage, tried to kill the Buddha even. All kinds of problems which you might say are just usual problems for a human being. But even the Buddha has to face them. But the Buddha achieved Nibbana. He achieved the highest happiness that human beings can achieve. So he didn't suffer with all of these things, but he still had to face them. So that's already one kind of indication of what the Buddha was teaching. He didn't teach us just to kind of escape from the problems of the world, the sufferings of being a human being. More, he taught us to face and understand the suffering of a human being and go beyond it through developing true understanding and liberating the mind from the causes of mental suffering, stress, unhappiness. And that's what we call Nibbana. One thing he pointed out is Nibbana comes to be through causes and conditions. It's not something you can just gain by wanting it. You probably all want Nibbana. You all want happiness that is free from all kinds of pain and stress. Everyone wants that. If you say, do you want that? Everyone will say yes. But it has to be achieved through the right causes, developing or building the right causes. It's not something you can just gain by praying for it, wanting for it. You can't ask the gods for it and say, oh, I need Nibbana, please, now give it to me. I'll do anything you want. And a lot of people in the world, they do that. They kind of make offerings to the gods and sacrifices, hoping that they'll attain Nibbana and hoping they'll attain happiness. But they never quite get there because it's impossible if you don't create the right causes. So one of the last teachings the Buddha gave was when a monk came to see him and had a question. His name was Subhata. He had a question. He said, are there noble ones, enlightened beings outside of the Buddhist teachings, in other religions, other traditions? And the Buddha said there will always be noble ones wherever people practice the Noble Eightfold Path. They cultivate that and purify their mind from greed, anger and delusion. So Nibbana has its cause, what we call the Noble Eightfold Path, which is a way. It's a way we practice to bring up Nibbana. Noble Eightfold Path is the cause, Nibbana is the result. And that's the way the Buddha taught how we can achieve happiness in life. It has to come through a cause. We can't just want it or wish it. We can't just ask for it from someone. And nowadays we're all very consumer orientated and materialistic too. We often think maybe we can achieve happiness just by a pill, or buying something, or getting some special product, maybe the right kind of food and vitamins and the right balanced diet, or winning the lottery, or buying those shares that will set us up for life and we'll be happy. All these kind of things we think might give us some kind of instant happiness, but they don't work, do they? They don't get you beyond aging, sickness and death. They don't show you how to deal with your mind when you don't always get what you want, when things don't go your way. The Buddha encouraged us actually to come back to the Noble Eightfold Path and put our effort into that. Build the causes through our own skillful actions, good actions in daily life. That doesn't mean to say we can't pray to the gods, or we can't have our wishes for all kinds of happiness and success in life, but we should also be realistic and say true happiness comes through developing the causes of the Noble Eightfold Path. In brief we call Sila, Samadhi and Panya, or morality, meditative states of calm, Samadhi, and Panya, wisdom, insight or understanding. These are qualities, these are things that we have to develop. We can't just want them or buy them or hope for them. We actually have to put effort in and develop them through our own actions. So the Buddha, the essence of his teachings is he puts it back on us, or like I am putting it back on you. You're all the listeners here today. The way the Buddha taught, he said, well, if you want to taste this happiness that I'm talking about, the happiness of Nibbana, you have to cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path, the cause, and you'll gradually come to the point where you can experience Nibbana. But you have to do that. I can't do it for you. So the Buddha couldn't do it for us. He could teach us, he could share his knowledge, give us encouragement, be a good example, but he couldn't do it for us or do that practice for us. He always said, you have to do it for yourself, following the instructions, but you have to do it. So Ajahn Chah, my teacher in this day and age, the Buddha is no longer with us, but Ajahn Chah, my teacher, used to say, it's just like eating a fruit. You have to eat the fruit and taste it to know what it tastes like. Even if you describe it, it's not enough, just describing it. And the Noble Eightfold Path is something you have to practice. So just now we took the 5 precepts, took the 3 refuges, and then committed to keeping the 5 precepts. So this is the beginning of Buddhist practice of the Noble Eightfold Path for Nibbana, for the highest happiness. At the end of the precepts I said a phrase, I said, Silena Sukhatinyanti, Silena Bhokasampada, Silena Nibutinyanti, Tasama Silang Visotatye. Silena Sukhatinyanti means undertake these precepts for happiness, to be happy. I undertake these precepts to maintain my wealth, and it doesn't just mean material wealth, being rich, also means spiritual wealth, the qualities we develop through the path. Silena Nibbutiyanti, I undertake these precepts as a cause for Nibbana, for the highest happiness and the deathless. That's why we undertake precepts. It's part of the practice. And the precepts, how do we begin then? We always begin with the first precept, Pārnāti pātā. What does that mean? It means I undertake to refrain or not kill or harm other beings. Really, the whole essence of the Buddhist teachings is that, isn't it? You're not harming yourself, not harming others through body, speech and mind. The worst kind of harm is killing. So the worst kind of karma a human being can make is to try and kill a Buddha or an Arahant or your parent. You're trying to kill somebody who's done you a lot of good and done a lot of good in the world is the worst kind of thought you could have, the worst action you could take. But any kind of killing or harming is bad because it makes bad karma for you, and obviously it's bad for whoever you kill or whatever you kill. Nobody wants to die. At this time in Penang we have the festival, the vegetarian festival. We just came past the market, a massive queue of people buying up to buy veggie food, because people at this time they really value eating vegetarian for a while at least, not killing animals or not killing so many. Tomorrow we're going to release some sea creatures in the sea, just to teach ourselves to value life. Maybe a very simple thing we do as humans, we buy animals from the market and release them. We buy cows, chickens, fish, crabs, many things, and release them rather than eat them. This is all an aspect of Pārnāti pātā, not killing. Because if you practice not killing, not harming, what does that mean? It means you naturally start to care for life. Not self-harming, you start to care for yourself. Not harming others, even little insects or creatures, you naturally will start caring for life because you won't hurt or harm other living creatures. It's just one precept, but it actually pervades the whole of the Buddhist teaching. It's a teaching based on compassion, non-violence, non-harming, and you might say true love. And nowadays it's another part of our society. We're all infatuated with the idea of love, romantic love, partners, all of that. But that's more, again, back towards the worldly happiness, which is still very uncertain, unreliable. As we know, romantic love, how long does that last? A few months if you're lucky. And I can speak from experience. Before I was a monk, I had romance, but it doesn't last. I know that much. But true love is where you value your humanity and you value the humanity of the other humans around. And it's independent of just liking things, you know. Romantic love tends to be based on, if you make me happy, then I'll feel good and then I'll love you. So if you look nice and you say nice things and you help me and you do what I want, then I'll be happy, then I'll love you. But if you don't do the things I want, or you don't look as nice as you used to, or you don't help me anymore, then I won't love you. If we reduce it down, it's kind of like that, isn't it? And nowadays people are very impatient. So in Australia, the average relationship now lasts about 7 years, marriage, 7 years. It's not a lifetime thing anymore. Because we're very impatient. As soon as you don't look very nice, or you don't talk very nice, or you don't do what I want, then I leave you. That's the trouble with romantic love. But true love is where you value the humanity in a person, independent of what they look like. And yeah, they may have their faults and their bad qualities, but you're seeing also the potential for progress and improvement in that person. And we say everyone can get enlightened. The Buddhist path is not for one person or one group of people, it's for everyone. But you have to practice. And so true love is where you see that value, that innate value in a person, whether they have done it or not, of course. Most people are not enlightened and they haven't got that far on their personal spiritual path. But you're recognizing and respecting the potential for that in everyone. And even actually, to be honest, in creatures like animals. Most people don't realize that. I didn't used to think that. I used to think animals, they don't know much. No way can they get enlightened. And it's true, in the animal form they can't get enlightened. But if that animal ever has the merit, the good karma to be reborn as a human, then they can. And so even an animal could maybe one day progress to the point where they become a human and get enlightened. So even an animal, if you kill it, you may be setting back that being's progress on the path to enlightenment. So this is why we encourage you not to kill. There's quite a few stories I know of monks who recognized that a certain animal was what we call a bodhisattva. A being who's previously been maybe a monk or a nun or just a very well-developed human being, a good person, but because they're in this endless cycle of birth and death over many lifetimes and they've made a wish to become a Buddha, maybe in some lifetimes they're reborn as an animal. But everyone else, most normal people will see that animal as just a bird or just a fish or just whatever it is. And they won't recognize those qualities. It might take somebody who's meditated and practiced the Buddhist path for a long time and is well developed, they might recognize them. So it's actually, as monks we're trained, we say, oh, be very careful, you might be around a bodhisattva without realizing. It could be a human being, a person, it could be an animal, and you don't realize, and maybe you go and, if it's a human, you might not think of killing them, but you may be very rude to them or hurt them in some way or harm them in some way. And you might be harming a bodhisattva. Or even an animal you could be harming. It happens. One story I know of one monk who was a disciple of Luang Por Man, who is like the grandfather of the forest monks. One day this monk is meditating in the morning, and what many monks do is they meditate in the morning and they spread metta, loving kindness out to the community around. And during his meditation he had a vision of a fish. The fish, not sure, it may have been a catfish. The kind of fish they sell in the market in Thailand alive. People will buy it and then cook it, kill it, cook it. And this fish in the vision came to him and it said, you got to help me, I'm in the market. Today someone will come and buy me and cook me, and they're going to make very bad karma. You've got to stop that. Out of compassion you must come and find a way to retrieve me from the market. And the monk said, oh yeah, monk is not, he's very smart. He's like everyone nowadays, maybe it's a scam, maybe it's some kind of fake fish. So in his meditation he said, are you genuine? Are you really a good fish? He wasn't going to just believe just like that. And the fish said, yeah, I'm a good fish. I'm a bodhisattva. I made a wish to become a Buddha. And I've been doing this for many lifetimes. If they kill me, they're going to make such bad karma. And the monk is like, oh, that's unusual, okay. But how can you prove that you're a bodhisattva? And the fish started reciting Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, just like you did just now. It's a vision, it's in his meditation, but the fish was talking in the meditation. And monks know they're not deluded, their mind is so clear, the mindfulness is strong, the samadhi is strong, the vision is very clear. And so he thought, maybe there's some truth to this. So he said, well, where are you? And the fish said, well, I'm in the market, I'm at this stall, I'm in a bucket. and I'm with 4 other fish. In this bucket there's 5 fish, so you probably should get someone to buy all 5 of us, because they might pick the wrong fish. We've got to save them all. So the monk went and got one of the temple laymen and said, look, go to the market, there's this bucket with fish at that stall, and you've got to buy all of them and bring them here, and don't harm them. So the man did it, and he saved the fish, and eventually they released the fish. That was done out of compassion, not just for the fish, but more out of the human who would have unwittingly bought that fish and killed a bodhisattva. And if you ever read the Jataka story, and just like Penang, always more houses, more factories. In those days there was a lot of swamp, and one time a flock of ducks, migrating ducks, came down from northern Asia. They said maybe Siberia or somewhere, and you get these flocks of birds that migrate north to south every year. So in the winter they can't live in the north, so they come to the south of the world. In the summer they can fly back. So they had come down from northern Asia, about 100,000 ducks, a lot of ducks, and they settled on this swamp temporarily because there's water, they can nest, they can feed on the plants and the fish, whatever they eat. So they're resting there, and you'd think, oh, that's nice, a lot of ducks come. But as you know, probably Malaysia is the same. In Thailand, every household in the country, they have a shotgun, and every Thai farmer loves to hunt. Maybe the farmer's wife as well loves to hunt. So it's like, oh, all these people in the villages surrounding the swamp, they all said, duck season. Got all these free ducks, free food for a long time, let's go. And they're all preparing to go and shoot them and kill them and collect them and eat them. And so some people who are like more into preserving life, protection of birds, the sort of the wildlife people, they thought, oh, this is a disaster. All these ducks are going to get slaughtered because everyone will hunt them and kill them. And ducks, if you haven't seen ducks, they're not very smart when it comes to people who hunt them. We have a lot of ducks in our monastery in Melbourne, and sometimes the wild dogs or the foxes come to get the duck, and the duck just sits there looking at the fox, and the fox just runs up and grabs the duck and kills it. They're not very smart. I don't know why. Every day I tell them, look, when the fox comes, you fly, but they don't do it. The same when the devotees come to the temple to offer dana, like you, they drive in, just like you drove in here tonight. They drive in and the duck just stands there in the middle of the road. And I said, look, you're going to get squashed, you get hit by a car. It doesn't work. I don't know why they don't move. They just stand there. Very difficult. Anyway, ducks are like that. So everyone is worried. They're like, oh no, all these 100,000 ducks are going to get shot. So they went to the wildlife charity, the World Wildlife Fund, who have a big organization in Thailand. They said, we've got to protect the ducks. They went to the princess, who is their patron, and she has a lot of influence, a bit of power. So she said, oh, we've got to do something. So she went to the politicians. And they went to the politicians and said, look, this area, this swamp area, there's a lot of wild ducks, very rare ducks, important ducks. We can't let them all be killed. The government has to protect them. So they pushed a bill through Parliament, really super quick, and established a temporary national park in the swamp area. And in national park, you're not allowed to hunt. So suddenly the ducks are protected. And they protected them for the season until they flew away and left. And then everyone was asking, wow, these ducks, they got instant protection from the government. How come? Why are they so lucky? And how did it all happen so well? Because this sort of thing doesn't happen very easily. In Penang or KL, you have to get pass a bill through Parliament. It takes years. And they argue and fight, and by the time the normal bill would get through Parliament, everybody would have shot the ducks and eaten the ducks. It'd be too late, wouldn't it? But in this case, they rushed it through, and the ducks were protected, and they got park rangers patrolling, and the ducks are safe. So they asked, how come these ducks are so lucky, so well protected? And some of the monks who meditate very well, they said, because the lead duck is a bodhisattva. And if anyone kills the bodhisattva, very bad karma. And the bodhisattva is a leader. The bodhisattvas have leadership qualities. All the ducks will follow the lead duck. So because of this one duck, with all its good karma, all its merit, all the ducks are protected. You read the Jatakas, it's just like that. Bodhisattvas protect the followers, the community. Could be a monk. There are some monks I know who are bodhisattvas. And interesting thing about bodhisattvas is people follow them. They believe them. They're bodhisattva, yeah. They may not know that monk is bodhisattva, but there's some innate qualities. They think he knows what he's talking about. People will listen, they'll follow, follow the instructions and the guidance of a bodhisattva because they're powerful. They have a sense of truth. They have a lot of wisdom, a lot of compassion, sacrifice. So people tend to follow. So like a very famous bodhisattva monk in recent Thai history is one called Kruba Sivichai. He lived in the Chiang Mai area. Probably many of you have been on holiday to Chiang Mai. And he lived about 100 years ago, so it's about the same time as Penang Buddhist Association was starting. Kruba Sivichai lived in northern Thailand, and he would wander the hills, either building temples, often on the top of a hill, or renovating old pagodas, old stupas, chedis, housing Buddha relics. He'd build them up or rebuild them. And you can still see some of the temples he built today. Some of them are really ornate, carved teak temples. The buildings are made of teak on some hilltop which is totally inaccessible, no road. He would get people, all the villagers, all the monks, everyone would be walking up these hills with all the building materials on their back, and they'd build pagodas on top and house Buddha relics. And whenever he started a project, everyone would follow. That's what a bodhisattva's like. Nobody argues. You know, you don't have committee problems when the monk is a bodhisattva. Everyone says, let's do it. They don't discuss and everyone gets upset. Well, we should do this. No, we should do that. The bodhisattva speaks, everyone follows. They have a saying like Lumpur Man, who was a great meditator. He said, Lumpur Kruba Sivichai is a bodhisattva. He carries a sword. And this is something, he's obviously not carrying a sword in reality. He's a monk. He doesn't carry a sword. But he said, if you ever see his divine body, you know, his mind-made body, he's got a sword, a gold sword with jewels on it. That stands for the sword of wisdom. Now, bodhisattva has a lot of wisdom, understanding of the teachings, understanding how to help people. And wisdom has the function of it cuts through delusion, it cuts through problems, it sorts out issues. You know, as a mental quality, intelligence, wisdom, understanding, that's what it does. So he has a sword that symbolizes his wisdom. So wherever he goes, this sword kind of cuts through the obstacles and problems for himself and for others. So he would go and do all these amazing things, building temples on tops of mountains and helping people and teaching people, and sometimes would heal people, and sometimes he would, people who were down on their luck, he'd get them to ordain as a monk and practice as a monk or a nun so that their karma would improve. He's very good at that. But of course, when somebody does a lot of good, a bodhisattva does a lot of good, other people are jealous. It's just the way of the world. I don't know why. You do good, you get maybe a reputation, people see you doing good, and some people will follow and praise you and say, this is a very good person, it's a good thing. But other people will put them down and say, oh, I don't believe they're any good, I don't like them, I don't want to follow them. Some people get jealous. So he actually was put under arrest for 2 years. He was kept you call it house arrest, but as a monk you don't do house arrest, you do monastery arrest. So they put you in a monastery and they don't let you leave your room. It's like a prison cell for 2 years. So they treated him very badly, and it took the head monk of the whole of Thailand to write a letter and make a declaration and say, look, this is a very good monk you are keeping under house arrest, do not do this, let him go. Because it was some members of the local government and even some monks, they got together, they're very jealous of him because he was so popular. Like if you ever go to Chiang Mai, you'll notice there's one golden temple on the mountain overlooking the city, and you can drive up this curvy road to the top. It's called Doi Suthep Temple, and it has a pagoda on top, golden pagoda with Buddha relics. Kruba Sivichai made the road up there and renovated that temple. So he did a great service to the city. I mean, now how many millions of tourists have gone up that road, brings a lot of money in, people are very happy, they like to go up and worship. That's been going on for like 100 years, and it will probably go on for hundreds more years. That's what bodhisattvas do, they make a big impact in a good way for many people. But when he did that, they were very annoyed, very jealous of him, and they said, this is a bad idea to make a road up the mountain like that. No, bad idea. So they wouldn't give him any money to do it. He said, don't worry, we'll find the money, we'll do it ourselves. So the monks and the villagers started doing it by hand with their junko, their little, is that the right word, junko? Your hoe, and start digging. And the people would, in Chiang Mai city, they'd come out about 4 p.m. when the heat of the day is going down and they finished their work for the day, they'd come and start working on the road, and they worked through the night. And the monks would help, and all the lay devotees would help, and they started building this road, which you can drive up today, and it's quite long, it's like, I don't know, 15 kilometers or something, up the hill, up the mountain. It was all done by hand to start with, and then they had to get more rocks and more tools up, so they get elephants, and the elephants would come up and they go up the hill, and they'd have staging posts. So at each staging post they built a Buddhist monastery, a temple. So they have the temple at the foot of the mountain. If you ever go there, it's called Si Soda. It stands for the Sodapanna, because the Kruba Sivichai said, oh yeah, this is the first temple, or the first stage going up the mountain. So it's like first stage of enlightenment, stream entry. Si Soda. And then they went up and they had a second temple for the once returner, Sakatagami, and then up a bit more for the Anagami, and for the top, Nibbana, where the pagoda is. And halfway up, the temple, I think is the one for that they said this is the Anagami level, that temple, it has a nickname. It's called the temple where the elephant slipped over. Because these elephants were walking up the waterfall. That was the easiest way for elephants. They walk up the rocks, the waterfall, because the rest is just jungle. And they were taking supplies up. It's like a shortcut. And even elephants slip. So this elephant, it slipped over and got stuck in the rocks. So they call it the temple where the elephant slipped over, to honor the sacrifice of the elephant. So he built the road up the mountain, built the temple at the top, did a great service. And that's what bodhisattvas do, whether they're humans, ducks, fish. Who knows, you maybe have already met a bodhisattva in your life, you just didn't know, you didn't realize. But they also point to the fact that we have to practice and develop our practice over a long period of time maybe. We have to be very patient, and we have to keep coming back to creating the causes for our happiness. A bodhisattva works hard. They work every day for the benefit of themselves and then for everyone else. They sacrifice, even sometimes sacrifice their life for the good of others. And there's many people in the world, they may not be bodhisattvas, but they do the same thing, don't they? They sacrifice for the good of everyone. Do some good project, or push through something that will help people who are poor or some injustice in the world. This is how we build a good world, and this is how we build happiness. It's through doing things, through sacrifice. Some people think Buddhism, you get to your happiness by being very passive. And there is a side of the Buddhist teachings that's like passive, isn't it? It's like you just sit there, meditate, and okay, sometimes that's what you have to do to calm down. Maybe you're very angry or confused, you need to meditate, bring the mindfulness up, calm down your emotions. That is part of the practice. But other times, you actually have to be active and do things as well. Keeping precepts, you can't always just sort of sit there and keep your 5 precepts. There'll be situations where you have to actively do something or rectify a situation or deal with something, but in a peaceful way. Say you're at work and someone's bullying you or hurting you. You may actually have to go and communicate and talk with them, or talk with a supervisor or boss or somebody else. Just being passive may not be enough. Sometimes we have to do things out of compassion to help people, teach people, solve problems. Or like Krupa Sivichai, sometimes you have to build a road, or you have to do something, build something or make something. Part of our happiness is through the actions that we take. It's not all about being passive and sitting back all the time. Sometimes that is the correct response in situations, but sometimes we have to be active. We have to learn things. We have to listen to Dhamma talks. You have to come to places like this, listen to the talk, learn some of the teachings of the Buddha, so then you can apply them in your daily life. Practicing mindfulness is being active, isn't it? It's not being passive. If you're practicing mindfulness, you have to pay attention. Some people actually say they don't like being mindful because it's kind of tiring. When you're not mindful, it's almost easier, isn't it? You don't have to think about anything, don't have to worry about anything, just relax and do nothing. But what happens when you're not very mindful? All the negative thoughts take over your mind, and maybe you become depressed or upset or sad. To practice mindfulness, what did the Buddha say? He said you have to be on guard. He said when you're practicing mindfulness, and I don't mean just meditating, but in daily life, what you say, what you do, you need to be mindful. The Buddha gave the comparison. He said it's like being the guardian of the gate of the city. Like Penang City, there's only 1 or 2 ways in, aren't there? The bridges. So it's like you're guarding the bridge to see who's coming in, who's going out. Mindfulness is like that. It's quite an active quality. You have to pay attention. What am I thinking now? How am I feeling? What am I thinking? You have to know that, don't you? If you're thinking something really harmful, or really foolish, silly, or really ugly, not very good, you have to know that so that you can stop thinking that way, let it go. If you're not mindful, you won't even know. And we all have that experience. Sometimes we get angry, we don't even know we're angry. And sometimes you see someone very angry, their face is angry and they're shouting or they're acting in an aggressive way, and someone else says, "You're angry, calm down." They say, "I'm not angry." They're so unmindful they don't even know they're angry. Or sometimes somebody tells something, says something is not true, and someone else knows it's not true. They say, "That's not true, you're lying." And they say, "No, I'm not lying," because they're not mindful enough to even know that they're lying. You probably all know someone like that. Maybe it's you, I don't know. But we do that. Sometimes when we're not mindful, we don't even know what we're doing, and we may make mistakes. So the quality of mindfulness, it's like the guardian of the city, the gate or the bridge coming in and out. You have to be observant and pay attention and know what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're doing. It's one of the first teachings the Buddha gave when he came back after his enlightenment to visit his family. He wanted to help his son, his wife, his son to become enlightened. So he starts teaching the Dhamma. And his son, Rahula, little boy, the first thing he taught him, he said, you should never lie, never deceive people, because if you lie, you can hide every kind of evil deed, every kind of bad thing. You have to learn to be honest, which is not easy, is it? You live in the world, there'll be times when you can be honest, but often we're kind of tempted to hide the truth or even change the truth, to tell a lie. But that's the first thing the Buddha said, because he recognized if you want to improve your mind, you have to be honest, because you have to recognize if I'm getting angry, I have to know I'm angry. If I'm following a more greedy, selfish course of action, or a harmful course of action, or I'm just very deluded, you have to get to the point where you can honestly say, this is what's happening, I'm deluded, I'm greedy, I'm angry, I'm jealous, so that you can change that. If you're hiding something from yourself, and we lie to ourselves, or from other people, then there's very little room to improve there, because you're hiding. So that's the first thing he taught his own son. Don't lie. Learn to be honest, to be truthful. And the second thing he taught was try to be mindful of everything you think, you say, you do, and you have to reflect. Get in the habit of reflecting, meaning to observe and reflect before you think anything or hold on to any train of thought or any viewpoint or belief. You have to think, is this really for my benefit and happiness, or is it for my harm, my suffering? Is it for other people's benefit and happiness, or is it for their suffering? Even on the level of your thoughts and your views and opinions, you have to do this, get in that habit. And then on the level of your speech, what you say, you have to get in the habit of reflecting before you say it. Is this for my benefit, happiness or not? Is it for the benefit and happiness of others or not? Before you say anything, that's your aim. Difficult, but that's your goal, that's your aim. And the third thing is your actions, what you do. You have to establish mindfulness and reflect. What I'm doing, is it going to be good for me, good for others, or for my harm, their harm? Not only that, the Buddha said you consider before you start, before you think, before you say, before you do, and then during that action, or as you're saying those things, or as you're thinking those thoughts, is this good for me, good for others, or for my harm, their harm? Because sometimes things change, don't they? We get it wrong. And you might realize halfway through a course of action, oh, this is not right, this is not good for anyone. And then you may have to stop or change. And then a third time, after you've said it, after you've done it, after you've thought it, review it. Was that good for me, for them, or not? What I just said, what kind of result came from that? Was it helpful, useful, making me happy, them happy, or did it make me or them more unhappy, harming them in some way, harming me in some way? Same with our actions. Is it good? Is it conducive to happiness, or was it good because you've already done it? So before, during, after, 3 phases or 3 time periods, you have to be mindful and reflect. Is this for my happiness, their happiness, or not? If you get into that habit, and he was teaching his kid, his 7-year-old son, if you get into that habit as you grow up, then it becomes a good habit that will protect you and bring you happiness over and over again, because maybe you're about to do something and you realize, maybe I shouldn't. Or maybe there's something you should do and you're not doing it, and maybe you should do it, and you remind yourself, oh, I should do this, I should go, I should do it. So Buddhism isn't just all passive or all active or any of that. It's a reflective teaching. It's teaching you to establish mindfulness and reflect on, you might say, on cause and effect, cause and result. And this way you learn, don't you? You learn from your experience. Was it good or not? Did it produce happiness for me, for others, or not? And we have to learn that. You know, in the beginning we tend to ask teachers, we say, oh, teacher, tell me, was this the right thing to do? Was this a good thing? Maybe we want confirmation. Or was it a wrong thing, a bad thing? And you listen to others. You know, when you're a kid, maybe you listen to your parents, you listen to your teachers later, listen to monks. But in the end, you've also got to learn to do it for yourself, haven't you? Because you're not always with your parents, your teachers, or your good friends. Sometimes you have to just listen to yourself, ask yourself, am I doing the right thing here or not? And this isn't the Buddha trying to make us kind of paralyzed. Oh, I can't make any decisions now. I don't know whether it'll be good or not. It's not doing that. It's just trying to give you a way that you can review and reflect on your behavior for your happiness. Because if we are suffering, where does it come from? It comes through our own wrong actions of body, speech and mind. Wrong thinking, wrong speaking, wrong actions that lead to our suffering. So you have to learn how to change things. This is what the Buddha taught, this is what bodhisattvas teach. You know, if you want to, if you listen to a bodhisattva, you probably wouldn't know a bodhisattva if they were one, but if you were listening to a bodhisattva, this is exactly what they teach. They teach the same as a Buddha. They teach us how to create the causes for true long-lasting happiness, ultimately for Nibbana, and then to free ourselves from suffering. So I've talked about a few different things tonight. Maybe that's enough of the talk for now, and in a moment I'll put it over to you if you have any questions. So,